you guys. It's been a lot of work in the making. Many months and many days and many hours and a lot of schwitz and sweating has gone into making this moment happen. It's true. Working in the back in hours for making this rig work. Trust me, Rabbi is technical. We have a tremendous plan ahead for you. We have the opportunity to film a Talking with Titans episode with Miles Nadal, one of the most esteemed entrepreneurs in Toronto. Every hero begins with an origin
I
story.
have to start first.
Okay.
I'm grateful to be invited. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to see all of you. This will be hard for you to understand, but I'm 67. I started when I was 22. So I was just like you. I had an insatiable desire to meet interesting people, do interesting things at interesting places. So when Jay Rosenfeld said, I'd like you to come to speak to these young professionals, I said, of course. I've known Jay for 20 or 30 years. And it was love at first sight because he's a special guy. His family's very special. And I had to say yes because anything he'd ask me for, I would say yes to. But second of all, he's such a good tennis player. And I'm getting so much older. Volunteer with his brother to play doubles with me. So I always have to say yes to Jay. But he's a very special guy. He is a great mentor of young professionals. He is someone that I like, admire, respect, and trust, both personally and professionally. And for what he's doing with this fantastic organization, it was my privilege to come here this evening. So it's nice to be here with you. I hope that you get some value added out of this. Just remember one thing from the beginning. I had no education. I never had a job. I was fundamentally unemployable. First two people I hired were my parents. I borrowed $500 for my Visa card, and we're a lot further ahead today. So if I can succeed, there's nobody here that doesn't have better education, better contacts, better expertise, more focus than I did when I was your age. So the world's your oyster, and I'm glad to be here this evening.
Big round of applause. And also a big round of thank you to Jay as well for really helping orchestrate this. So let's double click and let's go back to the origin. What was it like growing up in your family house? What was your family dynamic like? Bring us back there to the early years to understand, like, what are the seeds like of Miles back then?
Well, let's be clear. We didn't have a house. We had a 900 square feet, 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment. And my parents' combined income was about $10,000. My parents were married for 40 years. 39 and a half were fundamentally miserable. If they weren't throwing plates, breaking glass, slamming doors by the time to go to school, they had a tough life. They had no money. And if you have no money, it's really hard to have harmonious relationships and self-esteem. I have an older brother. He's 5 years older. He's the credible one in the family because he's the doctor. My mother made sure that she reinforced that all the time, even though she was my first employee. I grew up in Forest Hill on a street called Shalmar Boulevard, just around the corner from here. And I probably grew up with a chip on my shoulder. We were the only family that didn't have a car until we finally had an old beater. And I just came to the conclusion early on in my life that having no means sucks. And I wasn't going to live that life. And I was going to do whatever I had to do, be the first one up in the morning, the last one to go to sleep, work 7 days a week to succeed. I went to a camp called Camp White Pine. I learned photography as a hobby hub, and that became the beginning of my career. I took pictures of kids at summer camp, and then I took pictures of sports teams, including the Toronto Maple Leafs, well before you guys were born. I think I was the team photographer from 1981 to 84 or something like that. I don't think anyone here was born in 81 or 84. And I guess my mother always made me believe that anything was possible. And so I was probably too dumb to know that we had no resources, no contacts, no expertise. But I figured that if I just put my head down, Ray Kroc said persistence and determination alone is omnipotent. And I figured if I just put my head down and I was the hardest working guy, I would one day succeed, whatever that meant. And success was defined at that point just being better off than where I started. And I guess, I don't know, I'm 67, so that was 40. I've been working full-time 45 years, part-time 56 years. I got subsidized to go to summer camp at the Bloor JCC when I was 8 years old. And I said if I could ever be successful, I'd like to give back. And so when my sister-in-law at the time, Chaya Berkowitz, said we're redoing the JCC, would you like to, there's an opportunity to name the building, and you can give back like you always talked about that you would. I said that would be my privilege. And it's been a fantastic experience for me. People meet me and they say, are you the Miles Nadell from the Miles Nadell JCC? I said, well, it depends. If you like it, yes. If not, he's a no good first cousin that I want nothing to do with. So I always believed that life was about the journey, not the destination. And I always had this insatiable desire to learn and to challenge myself, etc. And, one foot in front of each other, and somehow 45 years later, we have a lot to show for the fruits of our labor. We have about, 10,000 people within the organization today. And I learned from my parents about the power of kindness. So Tom Hanks, favorite actor, said there are 3 keys to happiness: kindness, kindness, and kindness. And I try to live my life by that every day. Because most people believe that if you have the good fortune of material accomplishment and your name's on a bunch of buildings, etc., you're not going to be kind. You're going to be self-important, egotistical, narcissistic, etc. So I try to go out of my way to disprove that by just being nice in every one of my interactions every day.
I want to go into the origin of when you made a tremendous opportunity to photograph Wayne Gretzky. It sounds like that was a transformational moment where God really orchestrated an opportunity that really kind of changed the trajectory course.
So I think I was 21, so call that 46 years ago. I had taken pictures of Wayne Gretzky when I was like 16, and he played for the Brantford, whatever they were called. And I was the photographer for the Ontario Hockey League magazine, working for a guy by the name of Harry Littler. And somebody, I don't remember how it came about, said Don Cherry's Grapevine. Don Cherry was a famous coach. He had a TV show called Don Cherry's Grapevine, and that CHCH TV in Hamilton was doing an interview with him, and they asked me to take pictures, and I did. And I took one picture of Wade in this burgundy blazer, and Michael Barnett was his agent at the time. He worked for one of the most famous representative firms, and they saw this picture of Wayne Gretzky, and Wayne really liked it, so he decided to make that his promotional photograph. I was struggling at the time, for the first many times, and they kept ordering hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of copies, and I would charge them $10 each, and it cost me 49 cents to make. That was the reason why I was able to pay my bills, because we made tens of thousands of dollars from that. And I built a nice friendship with Wayne and Michael Barnett from IMG, International Management Group was the organization. So Um, the young aspiring business student meets the successful businessman, and he asks him, "How did you become so successful?" The older gentleman looks at him. He says, "Well, I jump at my opportunities." The young guy says, "But Rabbi, there's so many opportunities in the world. How do you know which ones to jump at?" The rabbi says, "I don't. I just keep jumping." So for 45 years, I've been in the jumping business. And I jokingly say to people, I've been failing forward for 45 years. Um, I have these 12 principles of partnership. One is partner only with people you like, admire, respect, and trust. Partner only with people you're prepared to have breakfast, lunch, or dinner with a second time. Partner only with people you're prepared to have a long weekend in a small cabin, small boat, small ranch, or small RV. Only partner with people that have large craniums, big candle power, and good judgment. By the way, most people's judgment's terrible, both personally and professionally. Only partner with people you trust enough to make the executor of your estate. Only partner with people that understand God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth in proportion for a reason, and use them accordingly. Most people like to talk, not to listen. I always tell my children, I never learned anything from talking, only by listening. Only partner with people that are kind to animals. How you treat your animal is indication of your humanity. Only partner with people who understand arithmetic. If you can't count, you have no ability to meet time-bound and measurable objectives, and you have no business to be in business. And the last one relates to this conversation. Only partner with people that understand who luck. That as much as we all think that it's our intelligence, and education, and our persistence and determination, and our commitment and dedication to the mission that determines our success, a lot of it is just beshert. It's just fate. It's just our good fortune of who we meet along the journey. And you should never forget that. And I don't think you can ever have enough humility. And so, I try to do nice things for people because I'm trying to get to heaven. And I hope I'll get there, but it won't be for lack of trying.
I think you're really embodying this idea of like, it's a beautiful thing. Because like you're saying, most people at your level would be like, their heads are very wide. And it feels like you understand very much that it came from somewhere. Have you ever thought about like asking God on the sideline, like, God, like, why did you give me all this wealth? Or do you feel like you already have an answer to that question and you're fulfilling it?
So I would say that Rabbi Rabinovich, who is the rabbi of the Kotel, he's a very good friend of mine. He's a remarkable guy. And he said you should realize that your material success does not belong to you. Hashem has given this to you as a means of being able to make a difference in the world. So don't think of it as yours. Think of it as something to share with future generations and those less fortunate. There's a great, you'll find I have a lot of quotes because I'm a professional plagiarizer. I am not capable of original thought. We did this famous poster of Warren Buffett and Wayne Gretzky. They were sitting on a Boeing business jet playing bridge. And the quote is from Forrest Witchcraft. It said, 100 years from now, no one will ever remember the car you drove, the house you lived in, or for that matter, how much money you had in your bank account. The world may be a different place if you've made a difference in the life of a young person. So I tell my children, your dad is a very selfish man. I go, what do you mean? You do so many nice things for people. I said, no. Your dad's a selfish guy because it feels so good to be available to try and help those less fortunate and to share my good fortune that I keep doing more and more of it. Tonight, I'm tired. I took my wife for the weekend to New York to celebrate Mother's Day. We went to see the Knicks play the Celtics. That was a terrible game. But it was great to be with my wife. It was great to be in New York. And then I looked at my calendar and I started at 7 o'clock this morning. I used to get up at 4:30 in the morning and work. Now I get up at 4:30 in the morning, but that's my second last time to go to the bathroom. I don't get up out of bed early, and I try not to stay up late. But I wasn't going to miss this. because for me, it fills my soul to be able to be here. And if I can be any modest source of inspiration, any modest source of information, etc., that will inspire anybody here. And one day, I hope some or all of you will be up on a stage somewhere, and you will remember, say, remember that guy Miles who talked all the time, had all these funny stories? Well, he said that you should do this because it's good for the people you're talking to, but it fills your own soul. And as one gets older, you realize there's very few things that you do in your life that fill your soul. You get to a point where your accomplishments don't have a lot of incremental emotional or practical satisfaction for you. Talking to young people is great. And if you can be a source of inspiration or information, you should take advantage of it, because not only is it good for you, but it makes you feel good.
Feels like you. First of all, a big round of applause to Miles already. I just feel. I'm sure you have a treasure trove of experiences and nuggets of people just expressing gratitude because of how you have impacted them, right? You have you can unlock doors for people who have been struggling for so long, financially, professionally, personally. Share with us a story of a person that you impacted. You don't have to share the details of their name, but just a story that's close to your heart.
So the only challenge of being Miles Nadell is your phone rings all the time. And you can't be there for everyone. You wish you could. You wish you could replicate yourself, but you just can't. I jokingly say there are one of four reasons why people call me. Invest in my business, sponsor my investment, hire my kid, or donate to my charity. No one ever says, hi, how are you? But it's part of, to those who much is given, much is expected. So nobody should feel sorry for me. It's my privilege to try and be there. I got a phone call from my eldest daughter, Sarah. She said she went to summer camp with a young lady, and she needed chemotherapy and radiation and additional treatments for her cancer. She was 21 years old, and we should support her. So I started off with like a little bit. I figured a little help, and then it'll go. Well, it became a 2-year journey, and I don't have the ability to say no readily, but thank God she sends me notes all the time on the anniversary of her when she went into remission. And I thought, you know what? I think Hashem's looking after me, because I didn't know this woman. I didn't know her parents. This was just somebody who, my daughter, who she didn't even know her all that well. But I thought, you know what? Maybe the Lord's looking down on me and saying, this is a test. So I don't know, that was a good thing, and thank God so far she's terrific, and I feel blessed to have been able to help her.
Because you're approached by so many things, I can imagine you had to have a philosophy or a methodology of how you decide what to invest in at the end of the day. Because there's so many different philanthropic groups that come your way. Do you have an internal determination, or is it a compass, or is it a feeling?
I'm a guy who sort of leads with my heart and my chin. If I relate to the cause, I try not to say no. Now, I always donate in multiples of 18, right? 180, 1,800, 100, 100, 1,000, whatever. And so there are only worthy causes. There are no bad causes. They're all wonderful. Up until now, it's been things that I relate to, that I think, so I think you should donate time, talent, and treasure. If you can't donate treasure, I understand, donate time and talent. And by the way, there's no amount of contribution that anyone can make that's too small. $18, right? It doesn't take much. volunteering at organizations that do wonderful things. You know, it fills your soul, and it's good for you. So, and the other thing I would say to you is it's never too early to start. When I was, bless you, when I was philanthropic, I was broke. I never, up until about 10 or 15 years ago, I could never afford to honor the pledges that I gave. But I sort of figured, you know what? I'll figure out how to do this, and Hashem will take care of me, and I'll figure out how to honor the pledges. And I think the true test of generosity is being able to be generous when you least can afford to. And that's just been my philosophy. Not everybody shares my philosophy, but I'm not trying to win a popularity contest. I'm not trying to win the Order of Canada. I'm not trying to run for public office. There's a great quote there's a famous coach. His name was Bill Parcells. He was a football coach in the NFL. And he said, as you travel down the highway of years and take pats on the back as you pass, your final reward will be heartache and tears if you fool the man in the glass. At the end of the day, you have to say, I like the person I see, honest, hardworking, conscientious, good person. And if you can't, then you should make changes in your life, because at the end of the day, it's all about the man in the glass or the woman in the glass.
One of the questions I want to move towards is the world of entrepreneurship, because it's a world, and it takes a certain level of acumen, and we have a lot of budding entrepreneurs who are here, and we really feel like we got a robust expression, understanding of your charity, your tzedakah. But how do you look at business? Is that a different muscle, or is it do you look at business as also an expression of kindness, and you walk with the same attitude?
Well, I think my whole approach to philanthropy or in business is all about identifying opportunities and figuring how to capitalize on it. I try to do things philanthropically where I think I can add value. I try to do things where wealth is created by being bold early and right, but bold and early doesn't make up for being wrong. You know, the thing that people don't really realize is that not everybody was meant to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone has the constitution, the makeup, the determination, the ability to absorb risk. You know, I meet lovely young people like you, good looking, smart, educated, etc., and they say, I want to be just like you. And I say, no, you don't. I say, why not? I say, you want to get up at 4 a.m, you want to have sleepless nights, you want to owe $850 million, try and figure out how to pay that back, you want to, you know, go public on Friday, October the 16th, the day before Black Monday. You want to start your business in 1980 when interest rates went from 11 to 22%. I promise you, you say, I want to wear Cuccinelli suits. I want to travel for the weekend to go see the Knicks. I want to go on a private plane, but I don't want to go through what you did for 45 years. And by the way, 8 hair transplants. You know, it's like, so everybody's got, a lot of people have good ideas. A good idea is not a good business. A good product is not a good business. It's hard to figure out those things that have longevity and opportunity for commercial success long term. And even if you find that, then you've got to find the capital. Then you have to figure out how to navigate in what is a changing environment. So I'm not trying to say to people, don't be an entrepreneur. I say, just realize it ain't all. When you see Mark Zuckerberg, you see Elon Musk, there's a great quote. So Scott Pelley's a famous CBS reporter. He's on 60 Minutes. He interviews Elon Musk in 2009. Said, Elon, you had $30 million to your name. You had to fund SpaceX and Tesla. Sounds like a lot of money, but not for enterprises of that scale. He said, did you ever think of quitting? And Elon quickly said, no, I'd have to be dead or incapacitated. That kind of unreasonable, irrational determination is what makes real entrepreneurs successful entrepreneurs.
Can we go into the mind of Miles for a second? Is there a voice of tenacity? And what does that voice say to you and as you were in your younger years moving forward? Or was it just irrational?
It's a good question. The name of my first boat was a 21-foot Bayliner called Tenacity. I always believed that pure tenacity could overcome most adversity. That may have been an unreasonable assumption, but it's what enabled me to keep moving forward. My whole life, everybody said, that will never work. It'll never work. I kind of got excited when people said it never worked. You'll never get this done, etc. And I guess, I don't know, my late mother gave me the confidence to believe that I could accomplish most things that I set up to do. I didn't know necessarily it was going to work, but I knew I had no chance of succeeding without that kind of determination. I have a funny story about tenacity. I have known President Donald J. Trump for 17 years. I play golf with him. And I know his daughter, Ivanka, and I know his son-in-law, Jared. So recently we were playing golf. I play with the head pro at Trump International. Oh, I hope you don't judge me badly for this story. But I will tell you, I spent a ton of time with him, and he's not the guy you know in public. He's kind, thoughtful, and caring, considerate, generous, wonderful. I'm the guy who got him into sneakers. I'm the guy who traveled for 15 and a half hours to Philadelphia, to SneakerCon, and then to Michigan to a rally and flew home. So anyways, we're playing golf. I'm playing with John Neaporti, the head pro. He plays with a guy named R.J. Nakassin, who's his caddy. We're down 3 with 4 to play. We're down 2 with 3 to play. We're down 1 with 2 to play. We're even going into 18. In the 18th hole, we all hit it down the fairway. I'm shorter than everybody else, like in distance. And I'm about 20 feet away on the green. President Trump says, I'm in for par. I'll give you I'm sure you'll get in 2 putts. I'll give it to you, and we'll be even. He said, Mr. President, I apologize, but I'm putting for birdie. He said, that means if I make the putt, we win. Anyways, he said, do not piss off the president. And I said, Mr. President, I'm going to do everything I can to make this putt. I make the putt. And we win. What was great, though, was he celebrated it, and he was thrilled. My point was, I would say to you the probability of making a 20-foot putt for someone like me is 1 in 20, maybe 1 in 10. But I was going to do my best to make the putt. My whole life, I was always trying to make the putt, no matter what the probability was to succeed in whatever I was doing.
How did your parents instill that self-belief and that self-confidence?
Well, poverty is an amazing motivator. When you're born poor and almost broke most of your life, and your parents are your first employees, failure is not an option. My mother, I told you, was the one who said, you can do anything. I don't know. And I think accomplishing things in the face of adversity is like going to the gym. Everybody here looks like they go to the gym. Okay? So when you start, you say, oh, I haven't been at the gym for a long time, or I've never been to the gym. So you start off and you say, I want to build my biceps. Start off with 5 pounds. You do that 5 times. Then you do it 10 times. And someone says, well, why don't you try 10 pounds? You gotta try 10 pounds. Then you try 15 pounds or 20 pounds or 25 pounds or 30 pounds. you eventually build uh, muscle mass, but I think your brain is a muscle. So I have these weird things I do. Like I can add, subtract, multiply, and divide in my head. Okay? And I do it all the time. Like if I when I go for lunch or dinner, I always round up to the nearest zero and I do the addition in my head, multiplication, what the gratuity will be. I do that every day. And I make my kids sometimes say, okay, 9 times 17, what is it? I said, no, Dad, I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. But like, I think I have an inherent advantage over most people because I can count. Now, I will tell you, I don't remember the score in the tennis game half the time. I have a photographic memory for numbers. I don't remember my postal code, but I remember the numbers of every one of our businesses for some strange reason. So, to me, necessity is the mother of invention, right? You have no money, you say, like, okay, you have two choices. Throw in the towel and say, I will accept my lot in life, or say, I'm going to do everything I can to change the course of what my life looks like and what the life I will have for my children, grandchildren, etc. And when I think to myself, I have always asked myself this question, what's your legacy going to be? I met a guy named Mark Teixeira. Mark Teixeira was the second baseman for the New York Yankees. And I met him through an organization called Harlem RBI. And he looked like a guy who was not Jewish. He was like 6'3", 200 pounds, looked like the size of a refrigerator, 0 fat. And I said to him, like, what's your legacy going to be? He said, well, good family guy, very devoted community guy, and oh, by the way, he played baseball. And he's a Hall of Fame baseball player. And I thought to myself, that kind of humility and approach was something that should be emulated. And so that's how I sort of went about my life. And I think to myself, there's a great quote by James Dean, and he said, dream as if you'll live forever and live as if you'll die today. So ask yourself a question, like, if this was your last day on earth, what would you be doing? And how would you like to live your last day? And usually the things that you want to do are most meaningful are things that you will do for and with your family.
This brings up the idea of dare to dream. Where did that come from? What do you want? What was your aspiration to accomplish with that motto? Is it a man anthem? What's the emphasis behind it?
We had bought a business called Davis and Henderson. They make checks. Everybody here looks around the room and looks at me like, what's a check? Okay, but people used to pay for things by check. And I bought a company called Davis and Henderson, and I borrowed 105% of the money. I didn't have money for the closing. And when we bought it, I said, okay, we had 40% of the TD Bank. You know, there's 6 banks in Canada, really. We had 40% of the TD Bank business. We had 68% of CIBC. We had 60% of Bank of Nova Scotia. We had 100% of BMO, and we had 40% of TD Bank. And I said, we're going to get 100% of the business in the market. The other two competitors were Quebecor, biggest printer in the world, and Deluxe Printing, which was the biggest check printer in the world. And I said, we're going to get 100% of the market. And everyone said, you're crazy. And I said, dare to dream. Dare to dream. And we ended up with 100% of the market. And from that $50 million I borrowed, we created $1 billion worth of equity value. But it was dare to dream. And everybody looked at me like I was from Pluto. But I sort of comfortable with people think I'm from Pluto. Like it's a natural thing. But I'm not looking for affirmation. I sort of know what our sphere of competency is. And I know, Marky, that gentleman and I have known each other for 30 years? Okay, sorry. Okay, he was 12. But so for me, it's like you got to be in your own soul comfortable with the decision you make. Doesn't mean you're going to succeed. It doesn't mean it's going to be right. But you have, if you're looking, success in business is not a popularity contest. In fact, I mean, you read about Facebook. You know how Mark Zuckerberg started in a college dorm, etc. People thought it would never work. Um, Elon Musk, I mean, they're going to put people on Mars? Are you kidding me? You're going to do satellite communication that's going to be 8 times faster, 1/4 the price. You're going to do hyperlink. You're going to have a electric car company against Ford, GM, and Chrysler, BMW, and Mercedes. Like these things are insane. You're going to land a rocket on like a little platform that NASA couldn't do with all of the means of the government behind it. So, you know, Bill Gates and his software business, like, so there's, you have to know what works for you and you have to be committed to it. And I always believe that success in business is a marathon, not a sprint. Howard Marks, the founder of Oaktree, he said, success is wealth creation is not in the buying, it's not in the selling, it's in the waiting. And Warren Buffett, who I started going to see Berkshire Hathaway's annual meeting in 1987, people thought I said Jimmy Buffett, and it was a concert. But he said that, it's not about intellect that determines people's success in business. It's about their constitution and their temperament. Everybody wants to get rich tomorrow morning. I always say I want to be 6'4". So far, that has not worked out so well. So, you just got to be committed to the long term.
Let's talk about mentors. How have mentors throughout your life played a part in helping build you, guide you, bring you to places you didn't think possible?
Well, I'm in the perpetual pursuit of mentors. And not necessarily are these people that I've met. But I read about them all the time. I watch their interviews, or I listen on their podcasts, or video interviews. And now for your generation, it's so much easier because you don't really have to meet people to find out the answer to the questions and to see their interviews. But, Izzy Sharp, the founder of Four Seasons, has been a great friend to me for 50 years. Lloyd Fogler, who was my father-in-law, has been a great friend to me since, well, when I met him, I was 29 and he was 54. Somehow I caught him. I'm now 67, he's 92. Leon Cooperman from Omega. There's Ray Dalio, Steve Schwarzman. I mean, there's so many people, but you learn different things from different people. And the other thing is, you don't necessarily learn the same thing after you watch them, hear them, meet them the second or the third or fourth time. Howard Schultz from Starbucks. So the difference between me and most people is, first of all, I have 25,358 contacts in my phone. Okay. I've never gone anywhere where I didn't think I could meet somebody interesting. And I always say the same thing. What's your name? Where are you from? What do you do? Tell me about yourself and your family. So I'll tell you a funny story. I told it today. 15 years ago, 2 overweight Jewish guys are in a schwitz together. Me and another guy. I can't really see him. He can't really see me. I say, what's your name? He says, my name is Alan Lazowski. Alan, where are you from? I'm from Connecticut. Uh-huh. What do you do? I'm the largest private parking lot operator in the world. Wow, private parking lot operator in the world. So we get together a few times in Palm Beach. Breakers is in Palm Beach. So he tells me the story. I said, tell me about your family. He says, I have a very famous father. He's a rabbi. Well, tell me about him. Rabbi Lazowski, if you look it up, he's a very famous man. I said, okay, good. Tell me about it. He said, well, he was 12 years old, and he was in Bergen-Belsen concentration camp with his mother, his whole family. And his mother was very savvy, and she said, go, get rid of, don't hold my hand, go over to that line and find someone who will save you. We are going to perish. If you go to that line, you got a chance of living. No, Mom, I'm not leaving you. So you have to. So he goes to the other line. He goes up the line. Would you save me? Would you save me? Would you save me? So he gets to the front of the line. There's a woman with 2 daughters. She says, look, you hold my left hand. They'll hold my right hand. And I think nobody will notice that you're not my family. And by good fortune, he gets through. He's 12 years old. He survives 3 years in the forest by himself. Okay? He goes to rabbinical school at the age of 26. He's in New York City, and he's at a bar mitzvah. And these people around the table are talking about some friends that they know in Connecticut, in Hartford, Connecticut. And they say, you know, they were telling a story about a young boy who they saved, and they lost touch with him. And he said, I'm that boy. I'm that boy. So he goes to Connecticut. He meets the mother and the 2 children, and he marries one of the daughters. And that's his wife, and they are the parents of Alan. So Frank Luntz is a Republican pollster. I was partners with him in his polling business. And he said to me during Milken Institute, Mike Milken was a famous guy in 1987. He developed a high-yield bond index in industry. Anyways, Frank says and I always have Frank stay at my home in Palm Beach during Milken. So he said, Saturday at 2 o'clock, I'm interviewing a rabbi. Yeah, okay. Because Milken has created something called the Milken Center for Advancing the American Dream, which is all about great stories of how people have prospered in America and how they've gone on from the face of adversity to great prosperity and what they do. Anyways, I get there about 2:20. I see all these people in my living room. There's like 30 people in my living room. They're filming the rabbi. And I'm listening to the story. I think I know the story. But it doesn't click to me right away. So afterwards, this heavyset guy comes up to me. I hadn't seen him in a few years. I said, what's your name? He said, Alan Lazowski. I said, Alan, what do you do? I'm the largest private parking lot operator in the world. I said, well, you can't be. I met a guy in a Schwitz 15 years ago, and he said he was that guy. He said, Miles, that's me. So this guy is a saint. And most people who are very accomplished are not that generous to share their relationships and contacts. Not Alan. He's a good neshama. He's a good heart. And he said, Miles, if you're building storage, etc., I want you to meet the guys at Apollo. I have a special relationship. I said, good. And I've had that happen before, and then people's follow-up is the big bagel. 0. You call them, say, remember, you said I'm going to meet David Cohen. Oh, yeah, no, I'm busy. I've got to go. I've got to fly, fish, float. I've got to frolic somewhere. I'll get back to you. And they never do. He did. This guy said, Alan is unbelievable. You must be a special guy because Alan rarely refers people. And we started a conversation. That was from 2 overweight Jewish guys sitting in a Schwitz 15 years ago.
By the way, we do that every Sunday. Miles, you're going to come to one of our Sunday schwitzes then. These are magical stories. And I think we've learned so much over here. But I want to actually open it up to the audience now.
Please.
I think it's about time that
I should just tell you, I have no education. I've never had a job. And I'm fundamentally unoffendable. You can ask me anything personally or professionally. I will respond. You may not like my answer. Yes, sir. So you should just know whether it was 45 and a half years ago when I started or today, it's always really, really hard. because banks. There's a great quote that says, when it's raining out, everyone says go find a shelter, but when it's sunny, everyone's got an umbrella for you. The easiest people to borrow. First of all, it's not easy. It's very difficult. But family and friends are probably the easiest source. And, I always jokingly say, I'm unoffendable. So I have no problem being rejected. I had no problem when I was much younger than you. I had no problem when I was your age or to this day. I know that I'm playing the law of averages. What's the worst thing someone could say to me? No. Okay? And, you know the expression, if you're borrowing $50,000 and you default, the bank's in trouble, but if you're borrowing $500 million and you default, they're in trouble. So it's very difficult. It depends on the industry. But don't be disappointed because you get rejected. Like, that's just part of the game in life. And Mark can tell you, I've been doing it for a long time, and Ted Williams was the most successful baseball player of all time. In 1946, he had the highest baseball hitting average ever, 406. That means he struck out 594 out of 1,000 times. That's the most successful ever. The late Jack Welch said to me, I'm the best people picker in the world. I'm right 2 out of 3 times. The average person's right 1 out of 3 times. So it's not easy. And even to this day, we have a new business that we started. It's called Arborough. It was brought to my attention by my CEO. He said, he called me about 3.5 years ago, and he said, what are you doing? I said, Trevor, it's Saturday night. It's the winter time, and I'm in the Bahamas by myself. What do you think I'm doing? I'm watching the Leafs lose. Okay? He says, I'm going to send you something. I said, well, don't sit. And he's been with me for 25 years. He's 52 years old. He said, I said, don't send me a document with single-space type. I don't read single-space type. He said, no, I'm going to send you 2. So he said, but this is going to be your legacy. You're going to want to do this. I said, okay, fine. So he sends it to me, and I actually read it. And the concept is really simple. When I was growing up, I was poor. We never owned a home. The reason why we never owned a home is we didn't have the down payment. So typical economics. You need $1 million to buy an apartment or a house, for a first-time homeowner. You can get $800,000 from the bank in a first mortgage. You need $200,000 of equity. There are 2.7 million Canadians who want to buy their first home. They have $50,000. So they all say, well, if I don't have the bank of mom and dad, I'll never own a home. So this business comes up with the incremental down payment that that person doesn't come up with. So on average, we come up with about 60%, because our partners can come up with 40. So I was like you. I was like, oh, this can't be all that difficult. And everyone said, I went to see all these people. They said, well, if this is such a brilliant idea, how come no one's ever done it before? I said, well, it's Canada, you know. It's Canada. Why would you take a risk when you can go work for the government? Like, I don't know. So I said, okay, well, I want to do this because this is going to be great. I think we can help 10,000 Canadians create $10 billion of equity value. So I go running around. People say, well, if it's so good, why don't you put up the money for the first 100 homes? So I put up the first $15 million. Then we had to fund the operating expenses. So I'm in for $25 million. Then we'd go try to borrow, get money. So CMHC announces that they have a $100 million program to help Canadians buy their first home. I'm like, Neskadol Hayashama. Miracles happen here. Okay? I'm like, okay, this is great. So a year goes by and I say to our people, like, how's CMHC? They got $25 million for us. Well, they're going to give it $5 million chunks. So I said, okay, fine. Give me the first $5 million. So after a year, I'm listening on a phone call that Trevor's on, and we're in Florida I'm driving, he's in the seat beside me because I'm trying to figure out, because I figure, okay, this is exactly the program that they want, and we have something that's perfect. So they say, we will give Mr. Nadel, by the way, my real name is Nadelberg, Nadelberg. But my father in 1950 lived in Montreal, and he moved to Toronto because he wanted a job at the T. Eaton Company. They did not hire Nadelbergs. So he changed his name to Nadal, saying he was French-Canadian. Anyways, long story short, they say, we'll give Mr. Nadel $5 million. We'll lend it to him. We'll charge him 6%. We want a cash security deposit of $3.75 million. We want his personal guarantee, and we want the units of the fund as security. I said, give them whatever they need, because this is going to change our credibility when we go to see people. Now, subsequently, we've raised about $50 million, okay? But it's still really hard. And I'm telling you, like, I'm a serious guy, and I built tons of businesses, and we created $5 billion of equity value in our various enterprises. And still to this day, I'm singing for my supper, and I'm working on my 9th hair transplant. So I don't want you to feel bad, but you got to have the conviction to keep going. And my attitude is, when you're at the beginning stages, you got to do what you got to do when you got to do what you got to do. And that's what I learned along the journey. I mean, I borrowed from my credit card. I borrowed from, you name it, any source of capital I could find. And I always believed that I would be able to grow and get a better source of capital over a long period of time. But this is a current story. Now, I think we're going to raise $1 billion in the next 2 or 3 years. And maybe we won't. Maybe we'll raise $500 million. Or if I'm a failure, it'll be $250 million. But it's going to be more than 50. And I say to people, I'm doing this in my charitable foundation. I expect to get zero from this. I pay $2 million a year for the privilege of trying to help Canadians buy their first home. So when I go to see banks, CEOs, pension funds, I say, listen, you have to support this. Everybody says that we have a housing crisis in Canada. What are you doing about it? I'm doing something. I've got something that actually works. We have 230 people who've now got their first home. And I think we'll have 500 by the end of the year. The point of the story is I'm groveling just as much as I did in 1980. And I'm proud of it, by the way. My friends say to me, when someone urinates on Miles' leg, he's always saying it must be raining. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to offend me? I almost lost my daughter to a heroin overdose. I'm not going to hurt my feelings. I've seen the abyss in life. I'm fine. But I'm going to do it. And I hope you're going to be part of it, is what I say to people. It's a fantastic question. So the question, did you guys hear the question? How do you know if an idea is actually a business and it's worth doing the work? There's a great quote that I use. How do you know if the juice is worth the squeeze? And you don't, okay? But you got to do the homework. What's the size of the market? What's the competitive landscape look like? When we got into the self-storage business, I was like, there was in Canada, there was 1.5 square feet per capita consumption of self-storage. In the United States, it was 9 square feet. I was like, that's good. And we could make 20% more revenue per square foot than they did in America. That was good. And it cost 20% less to build. That's good. And the rate of return leverage was going to be 20%. I was like, that's good. So I said, we should pursue this. And everybody I went to talk to said, sounds like a piece of shit. Like garage doors, like old, tired, dilapidated storage facility. Why would you want to do that? I said, well, have you ever heard of B. Wayne Hughes? People say, what's up, B. Wayne Hughes? You know those guys with the orange doors? The guys at Public Storage? It's the most successful REIT in America. It's $65 billion, most successful REIT in the world. I said, we could do that. So I went to see the banks. So you should lend us money because we want to build self-storage. It's a great business. They said, have you ever built one? No. Have you ever leased one? No. Have you ever zoned one? No. Do you know anything about it? No, it's a good business. I said, well, why don't you do a few and come back and talk to us? So I funded it on my own pocket. And it's turned out over 10 years to be a great business. But at the time, everybody said it was a bad business. Now, I kind of like when people say something is not a good idea, but I do the homework. So it doesn't mean it's going to succeed. It's just that I understand the size of the market, the economics of it, what the return is going to be if we succeed. I look for something called asymmetric risk, which means I would like to put up a little bit of money to get a lot of return. Most people end up putting up a lot of money to get very little or no return. So I always jokingly say to our guys, like, why would we do that? I don't need to invest money to get bad returns. I can do that on my own. I don't need to find somebody else to do that with me. I could do that on my own, meaning that I want to find wonderful opportunities. So Warren Buffett said, the difference between successful people and really successful people is really successful people say no most of the time. Okay? Don't take this the wrong way. Most people cannot count. They can't count. There are people like, okay, so how much money will you need? I'm not sure. I'll ask my accountant. Not a good answer. What does success look like? Make a lot of money. No. But if you put up $100, what's the rate of return you think you could get for 2 years, or 3 years, or 5 years, or 10 years, whatever? I'm going to give you the greatest rule of all time. If you learn nothing else other than today, it's called the law of 72. Anybody here know what the law of 72 is? Okay, good. So money doubles every 7 years at 10%, 7.2 years at 10%, and every 7 years at 10, 7.2 years at 10%. And the corollary. I'm tired, so I apologize. Never forget that. So my wife, she sells her house. Because I was an offshore resident. I moved back to Canada since January the 1st. People say, why would you do that? I say, well, I have children and stepchildren. I have a grandchild June 19th. And I want to see if I can give away all my money to the Canadian government. I figured I'd come back to Canada to see if I could do that. So I say to my wife, that money which you're investing, I believe that you're going to get 35 times your money in 30 years. And of course she said, you're smart, you're wealthy, you're really... I don't believe you. I said, honey, it's not like this is arithmetic. Like the S&P 500 grows 10% compounded every year, over long periods of time. And if you continue to reinvest part of the allowance I give you every year, I'm telling you, you're going to have 35 times your money over 30 years. And if I'm lying, you'll have 25 times your money. But it's going to, and she was like, I don't believe you. I'm going to ask Trevor. Trevor's our CEO, because she thinks that he would never lie. I would just make stuff up. Okay? She loves me, but she thinks I'd make shit up. So he goes, yeah, no, Miles is right. That's what the arithmetic is. But people don't look at life like that, because they want to know what's it worth tomorrow, 2 years from now, 5 years. When you say to someone, 25 years from now, 30 years from now, 35 years from now, here's what the arithmetic looks like. And so I just say, success is a marathon, not a sprint. Got to be a female. This pretty lady here. Beautiful
Any
smile.
more questions?
No, she's going to answer. No, you're going to ask a question. If I came here to be here, you can ask me a question. Anything you want. Oh boy, it's a great question.
No question.
What's the worst business I've ever invested in? So In 1994, I invested in a company called Regal Greetings and Gifts. It was a catalog shopping business. It'd been around for decades. And I thought, you know what? I think I can add value to this business. And so we buy the business for like $95 million, and I borrow $40 million at the time. And first year, and by the way, it's a business that earns 150% of its earnings in the last quarter, meaning it loses money for 9 months, makes all of its profits in the fourth quarter at Christmas. So I'm on the toilet seat for 9 months, waiting. And then it comes through and it's not so good. Next year, waiting, not much better. So I finally decided I was going to sell it, and I sold it for $60 million, and I lost $35 million. So don't be in the catalog shopping business. You know, the reality is, if you think about it, even Warren Buffett, like Berkshire Hathaway was a textile company. That was the core business, and then it didn't exist. Dexter Shoe Company doesn't exist anymore. So even the world's smartest investor can find bad businesses. And like I said, there's no batter bats 1,000. So, you know, what works today may not work in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. I'm going to give you another quote. Businesses are like people. They come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Very few things are for a lifetime. I'm sorry, I cut you off. What question do you have? I think the data storage business is a great business and really growing. I think the artificial intelligence business and the application of creating electricity to power all these things is a great business. You know, look where Wayne Gretzky, he was a famous hockey player. He said, look for where the puck is going, not where it's been. So you got to look at industries that are evolving. Someone said to me today, I don't know if he was plumbing, electrical contracting, whatever. It's like, that's good business. I say, why? Because there's no electricians and there's no plumbers, and if you may not get rich from it, but you certainly will have a very good living, and there's very little competition. And if you ask Joe Mancinelli from Leuna, they can't find enough like electrical contractors or plumbers or drywallers or any of those kinds of things. So I think the most critical thing is, if you're looking to be part of an organization, I also think you got to find places that with the people you like, admire, respect, and trust. And who do you like? Where are you comfortable? The culture, because ultimately, if you're a young person, you want to find people who will mentor you. So more important than the actual business itself, the industry, etc., you want to find people who take an interest in you. You want to find people like Jay Rosenfeld, who said, what's his name? Mike? Rob? Jacob. I said Robbie. Call him Rob. Okay. At this stage of my life, like, if I get it close, I'm lucky. So that's what I say. Like, and if you go for an interview and you're not comfortable with the culture, and they can't explain why it's a great culture that embraces young people, that wants to see people grow, like, that's the greatest part of my job today. That we have incredible young people between the ages of, 25 and 40, and they've been with us, and they were single, and they found a significant other. Then they got married. Then they bought a house. Then they have a child. A second child. I was like, that all happened under our watch. Like, how good is that? And they're growing. And I always say to people, if you're terrific, your job is to be here for 25 years after I pass away. And then you can go look for something else to do. But great talent is irreplaceable. So I think that's important. I will tell you this, that being charitable, being philanthropic, being kind, I think is a reason why we attract and retain great people. I not because we're the smartest people, not we're the most driven, not the most successful, but that is a unique culture that works. Do you have a question for me? Handsome guy with a smile.
It's luckily permissible to take the birdie.
Look, here's what I'd say. The rabbi asked me a question. I believe in Hashem, but I don't believe prayer is a strategy for success. I didn't say that there isn't things out of your control, but I'm going to do everything in my power to control the things that I control to try and affect a positive outcome. And I pray a lot. I pray a lot. Because if that helps the odds, I'll take it. But you said something about chutzpah. If anybody knows me reasonably well, I'm like, I got nothing to lose. And so I'll fail. If you said, well, tell me about all your failures, I said, well, we'd be here till Yom Kippur. You don't have enough time for that. But I'm not worried about that. I worry about, have I done everything I can to prepare myself to succeed? Have I done all the homework to understand the odds and issues, etc.? And am I committed to it? Because a lot of success in business and golf is confidence. Jay Hennick, Jay Rosenfeld at the net, he actually thinks he's going to get everything. And he gets to a lot of stuff. And he wills himself to get to all the balls. But if you don't believe that you have the ability, and if you don't believe you're going to make that putt, you have no shot. No shot. I'll take you and your friend beside you. It's a brilliant question. I'll go to one part that you didn't ask. You ask about people's academic accomplishments. Never do, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm afraid they're going to ask me about mine. I got none. So don't ask a question unless you're prepared to take the reciprocal. I am not the best interviewer in the world. I'm really good at interviewing for cultural fit and chemistry, and not very good at interviewing for competency because I've never had a job. So I rely on the people in our organization. But I'd sooner take a 7 out of 10 for qualification of ability and a 9 out of 10 for cultural fit, chemistry, and determination and character. I think character beats strategy all day long. And the most important thing is, are they a good person? And will they do whatever it takes to succeed? So if someone says, well, tell me the hours that you work. Sorry, what did you say? What? You want to know? By the way, I didn't say people shouldn't have balance in their life. And I say, never miss your kid's birthday, never miss your anniversary, never miss your parents' anniversary, etc. Make sure if people are visiting you from out of town, you're there. Because it's not what you do. It's a funny story. So I have a daughter who was not a very good student, and she didn't work that hard. She's very smart, but she was not very scholastic. So I said to her mother, I'm going to take her on a trip. We're going to go to Florida. Take her out of school Thursday and Friday. She said, you can't do that. She's doing poorly in school. You can't do that. She needs the extra time in school. I said, wait a second. What are you worried about those 2 days? What about the 250 days when she's in school and she doesn't pay attention? Who cares about that? So me, culture, character, determination. You said grit, greatest word ever. There's a great interview by a woman named Angela Duckworth. Angela Duckworth. It's a great TED Talk. She said the most powerful attribute for people's success is grit, which is the commitment and determination to do tasks over and over again A, that are difficult, and B, and not very rewarding. So care a lot about grit. Sir, fail. You gotta learn how to fail. You gotta learn how to fail and pick yourself back up. You go to the gym? You go to the gym? Okay. How often? Okay. And you ever try something, you try it 4 reps, then you try it 6 reps, then you try it 8 reps, try it 10 reps, and you don't do the 10th rep. What do? Come back the next day. Keep going. The most important thing in being a person in business and overcoming the fear of failure. First of all, I don't have a fear of failure. I know I will fail. I hope I fail small and late. I hope it's not the first thing that happens to me in something, but I know that there's a likelihood of failure. But I say, what am I going to do when that happens? How do I course correct, and how do I get back on the horse again? And that's the only difference between me and most people. I have an irrational determination that says I will die trying and I won't fail. I will fail at a point in time, but not over a period of time. So the easiest thing to do is just like you do the reps at the gym. The only difference is reps at the gym you don't have an economic consequence to that, right? Okay, fine, I didn't do it. I'll do it the next time or whatever. But you build confidence over a long period of time. I was not the guy I am today when I was your age. I was like, shit, is this going to work? I hope it works. Everyone tells me it's not going to work. Maybe they're right. And I was like, okay, well, don't even think about that, because I have this bracelet. I have a daughter in recovery. The bracelet is about the serenity prayer. God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I wish I knew that earlier on in my life, and I'm not in recovery. I haven't had a drink in 12 years since my daughter entered recovery, but it's like there are certain things that are out of my control, but to the best of my ability, I'm going to do everything I can, to influence that outcome. You want to ask me a question? No, the lady behind you. Yes. So I got subsidized to go to summer camp 59 years ago. I was 8 years old. We didn't have the money. And I went to the JCC. It was called the Young YMHA, Young Men's. No, it's YMHA, the Jewish one. CA is the Shagets one. And I was like, I was proud to be Jewish from a very young age. And I learned about anti-Semitism when I was a kid. Because in 1958, when I was born, at Kew Gardens, they had signs that said, no dogs or Jews allowed. And, I have a very funny story for you. In 1996, I lead a mission to Israel with the Belsberg family and the Hennick family. And Prime Minister Shimon Peres is conducting the Shabbat. He's giving a speech, and we're at the Tel Aviv Hilton. And he said, Mr. Belsberg, you're a wonderful man. Your grandfather was a fantastic Jew, a great supporter of Israel. And your father was also fantastic. He's a good friend of mine. And you are following in his footsteps. Yasher Koach. Mr. Nadel, I didn't know your family. I think they were probably very lovely people. And I said, you know what? When I go to Israel, people are going to know who I am. And I said, I'm going to get involved with Yad Vashem, and I'm going to get involved with Tel Aviv University, and I'm going to endow an Institute for Technological Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I'm going to support Eli Beard. Does anyone here know who Eli Beard is? United Salah. He's the greatest Jew in the world. He's unbelievable. I met him in January of 2015. I said, what's a United Hatzalah? I saw him in New York. He said, we create these ambucycles, and if there's ever, God forbid, a terrorist attack, we can get there. The goal is to get there in 3 minutes, but it takes 30 minutes for an ambulance to come. And before the end of dinner, Shabbat dinner, I had bought 3 ambucycles, and we become good friends. I support the Dove. Does anyone watch the TV show Fauda? Fauda means chaos in Arabic, and Dove is the real life example of Fauda. And so, I don't know. I always had strong sense of Jewish identity. I loved going to Israel because they made me feel like a chacham. That means a wise man. Like I was a serious guy. Right? They didn't know who I was, 10 years earlier, but now it's like, oh, Mr. Nadel, okay. I get honored to be the Negev dinner honoree, 15 years ago. They said, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. What do you want me to do? Well, we should endow the Canada-Israel Park. I said, okay, good. Show me a picture. Show me a picture. This is not a park. They said, don't worry. We'll make it the land of milk and honey. So I asked them a year later, how is it going? Not yet. Year after that, how's it going? Not yet. Year after that, they say, we're ready for you. So I go to Israel and I go there. It's like the land of milk and honey. They had a party for me that was nicer than my bar mitzvah. It was unbelievable. Unfortunately, the terrorists just burnt down 2/3 of the park. So I said, let's build it back. So I think everybody here would share with me, since October the 7th, the strength of my commitment to my Jewish identity, the importance of Israel, fighting anti-Semitism is greater than ever before. And I sort of think without Israel, Jews don't have the ability to survive long term. And it makes me nuts to see the rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses. I funded Frank Luntz 13 years ago to do research about this. And when I gave a large donation to Yad Vashem, I was like, well, this is never going to happen again, but we should never forget. It's all about eliminating hatred and racism and anti-Semitism, but not just anti-Semitism, but all forms of hatred. I never thought we'd be experiencing what we experience here, and what it's, like what's happening in Brooklyn and all these other places. I just think that, I was at a conference and I saw Bill Ackman, who was the one who put Harvard, he said, I'm not going to fund Harvard anymore, and was with Mark Rowan, who was at Wharton. He's the one who withdrew his funding for Wharton. And John Gray, who just gave $125 million to Tel Aviv University for Medical Center. I'm very aware, and I'm very proud. And if you follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter, you see I'm posting stuff all the time and about the importance of making people aware that this is not acceptable. So I don't know if that answers your question. Sir, the beard in the back. Everybody's got a different make it or break it moment, right? I'll tell you one. We owed $865 million to the banks. And said, well, we should sell our check printing business. Even though it was an amazing business, we couldn't afford to be in the advertising business and the check printing business. We had to pick a horse. So I came up with this idea that we should do an income trust. This is many years ago. This is like 2001. And I said, people say, well, you only have 6 clients. What happens if one of them changes their mind? I said, well, that's not going to happen. But bottom line is, I said, okay, let's try it. First time we fail. Market's not good. Second time we try, we fail. Everyone's like, when does a smart man realize doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is the definition of stupidity or insanity? I said, well, no, it doesn't mean no. It just means no, no, no. Third time it worked. Third time it worked. I would have done it 12 times. Like that, I believed I was right. The question was timing. We invested in the real estate brokerage business. We were incredibly successful for 15 years. Then the last 3 years happened. I wrote checks for $40 million. We're going to be very successful at it. Just that you just got to be able to live long enough. We'll sell $60 billion worth of residential real estate across North America instead of 80 or 90 billion. Okay? You say, what would you have done if you didn't have the money to put it in? I would have gone to Hashem. I would have said, you got any money for me, Hashem? What do? You scramble around. Does that answer your question? Okay, give me some more. Tell me what else I could do to give you information that would be valuable. 2015, I get a call from the rehab center. They say, make preparations for your daughter. She's not going to make it. Said, Hashem, I'll make a deal with you right now. I'll never ask you for anything. If I don't succeed on any other business, if our businesses make no more money, just let my daughter live and I will be fine. And I will pay you a debt of gratitude for the rest of my life. That may not be business, but that was the single biggest motivator, and it is to this day, that as long as my children are healthy, I'm good. I'm good. Because you're only as happy as your least happy child. We have a bunch of businesses. Like, we got a lot of stuff, okay? And if you say, well, you're so beautifully dressed, and, you seem to be, able to spew all these stories for an hour and 45 minutes. Like, it must be easy. It's not easy. It's not easy. I will tell you what I tell everybody. We have some good things. We have some great things. And we have some large piles of manure. And that's my life. And I accept that. And I'm privileged to have the piles of manure because I also have the other things that offset it. Father has two children, the eternal optimist and the pessimist. The father says, I got to take the optimist and I got to make him more realistic. And the pessimist, I got to teach him to be more optimistic. So first he deals with the pessimist. Puts him in a room full of toys. Every wonderful toy that he can think of that the kid may like. He gives him all these toys. And the optimist, he puts him in a room with a large pile of manure. So he goes to visit the pessimist. He sees the kid and he says, what do you think? He says, these toys are boring. There's nothing here really of interest to me. You probably wasted your money. I don't feel any differently before you gave me the toys and now. He goes to the optimist. And he goes in and he sees the kid. He can't find the kid. Kid is buried in a large pile of shit. Okay? So he said to his son, where are you? Where are you? He said, Dad, I'm in here. What are you doing? I'm digging for ponies. There's got to be a pony here. So, which side of the coin you want to look at? The pile of shit or the good things? And there's nothing more gratifying than if you take a pile of shit, you actually make something out of it. Is that better? Hang on, I got to ask. Come back. Yes, sir. Yep. It's a brilliant question. I'm going to surprise you with the answer. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I was, 7 years ago, I was 60 years old. I weighed 255 pounds, which is 90 pounds more than I do now. I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, hypertension, diabetes, and sleep apnea. Other than that, I was healthy. They told me that I was going to die by the time I was 65. I came to the intelligent conclusion that affluent and dead was a bad combination. And it made me realize that when I was your age, I neglected myself. I didn't take care of myself, either physically or emotionally. I looked like shit. I felt worse, and my self-esteem was in the gutter, even though my net worth kept going up. And so my advice to everyone here is take care of yourself, both physically, emotionally, mentally. Um, there's no amount of money that's worthwhile to neglect yourself. I did. And I'm lucky to be here to tell you that story. And I didn't realize it at the time until it was almost too late. So I do really strange things. Like I find out people's birthdays. Michael Dell and I share the same birthday. Okay? I used to send him happy birthday notes. Zero response. I'm like, as my friend Peter McCarthy said, you're not going to tire me out. Not going to tire me out. So I kept sending it to him. One day, I lived in the building 157 West 57th in New York, and he had the penthouse. And my kids were with me at the time. They said, Dad, how do you think Michael Dell gets to his apartment on the penthouse? I said, does he come by helicopter? Does he go through 57? 58? I said, I don't know. One day, we come in the building, see a guy with a black backpack, black T-shirt, black jeans, black running shoes, and that's Michael Dell. I said, Michael, nice to see you. We share a lot in common, not the least of which is our birthday. She says, you're the birthday guy. I said, yeah, I'm the birthday guy. I'm the birthday guy. Anyways, I sent him another note the next year. No response. Then I sent him another note the next year. And I get two responses back. One was, I said, by the way, I admire what you do philanthropically, and you're a great role model, and you're making a difference in the world, and you should be very proud, and your family should be proud. I get one that says, thank you very much for thinking about me on my birthday, and best of luck. And the other one says, remember meeting you. It's very nice. I remember you were with your daughters, and it made an impact on me. And, thank you for wishing me a happy birthday. I hope you have a very nice birthday. So I do these interviews, by the way, with people. David Rubenstein, Steve Schwarzman, Ray Dalio, Mike Milken, Ken Langone, etc. So I'm like, Mikey and I are good buddies. I'm going to send him a note. He says, thank you very much for the note, but I don't have time. Okay, it's fine. So anybody that I know that's ever on TV, send him a note of congratulations. Anybody that I know or don't really know well, I wish them a happy birthday. I've got 4,300,000 happy birthday notes that I send out. I send them to every one of our people. Happy anniversary, etc. And you never know. And hopefully, what I used to do when I was your age, like really young, is I used to find out what philanthropic organizations they were associated with, and I used to come to functions. So it's nice to see you. How are you? You're really thrilled what you're doing here, and it's a privilege to be. Could we ever have a cup of coffee? A lot of times people are prepared to do so. But I never forget one thing. Everybody wants to talk about how great they are. They don't want to know about you. So I'm happy with that. People say to me when we spend time together, you've asked me 400,000 questions. I know nothing about you. I said, okay, we can have another coffee. If you really want to know, we'll have another coffee. And what's the worst case scenario? Someone says, it's very nice to meet you. I don't have time. I'm not going to meet you. Okay. And I always write a thank you note to every single person I meet with. Thank you for your time. Pleasure to spend. And by the way, I kill them with kindness. Is your son as remarkable as you are? Where do they get the incredible drive, determination? I could spew forever. And if you say, oh, yeah, no, I think my son's pretty special. And is your daughter remarkable like you and your wife, etc.? And why do you think they're so exceptional? And you look, I've taken up almost 2 hours of your time, and I'm just getting going. My point, though, is you don't know how these relationships will manifest themselves. You could ask Jay. We've been doing this for a long time, and sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. But opportunity is like sperm. You only need one. I don't mean to be crude, but the reality is that's all you need. So you don't know. And you could get rejected tons of time and you have one thing. And it's relationships are sort of like golf. Like, even if you're not that proficient, all you need is one good shot around. You go, oh, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. First 17 holes weren't so good, but the last one was great. It's a brilliant question. I am not the best person to answer the question, but I have 4 daughters, and they're young, smart, ambitious, etc. You know, one of the great quotes that Trevor Monder gave me is, you can have anything you want in life, you just can't have everything. I think you could have everything over a period of time, but life is about opportunity cost. You give up something to get something else. So, I mean, the problem I had was I was so irresponsibly, maniacally driven that I would work 7 days a week. And, you know, I would see my kids Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock to take them to McDonald's. I bring them to the annual meeting and I travel with them, but I was not your role model parent. And if you said, well, if you had to do it all over again, would you do it differently? I would be irresponsible if I didn't say I would, but I don't think I could have, because I was so maniacally driven that that was the only thing that I thought about was you know, material wealth and recognition. But when my daughter went into recovery, I switched it off. I said, I never want to miss any event for my children. Every Shabbos, I send a cute picture of them growing up and a Shabbat Shalom with little, I'm the king of emojis. I'm a 67-year-old dedicated emoji guy, okay? And no matter what I'm doing, I will never forget that. So, you know, the most important decision we all make is our life partner. That will determine our health and happiness and peace of mind and satisfaction. Some of that is good fortune, and some of it is just being selective. And, you know, if you go through phases of life, right? You're 21 years old, whatever. And, you know, I have a stepdaughter who I had a great experience today. I went to see her ultrasound. It was the greatest. It was the greatest. And I'm so excited to be a grandfather because I get a chance to sort of make up for that which I didn't do as a parent, even though now I try to do my best as a parent, and it's never too late to be involved. But, you know, if someone says, well, no, I can do it forever. I can do everything. I'm a woman. Mika Brzezinski wrote a book, something like You Could Do It All or something like that. Sheryl Sandler wrote a book about that. Women have it hard. It's really hard. I mean, my wife always said, oh, you go give birth, see how you feel. I said, listen, I've had kidney stones, so like I know how it feels. But, you know, life's about what's priority. And what's a priority for you versus a priority for another young lady is not one and the same. So you can't ask somebody to say, well, what would you do if you were me? It's like they were brought up differently. They have different priorities. They were parented differently. Their ambitions may be very different, etc. You just got to be comfortable with the decisions you make. And like I said, it's not about, you know, these things are not popularity contests. They're about what works for you. But I'm always in the wrong place. Always in the wrong place. I was in New York. I wanted to be in Toronto. I'm in Toronto. I should have been in Florida. If I'm in Florida, whatever. If I'm here tonight, I'm not with my wife. If I go to the hockey game tomorrow, I'm not going to be with my stepdaughter to go to her birthday. So I'll go to her birthday. I don't love the Leafs that much that I gotta put myself through that pain and agony to see Game 5. But also, my stepdaughter will only be 28 once. So I started to reprioritize. I'll tell you a funny story. I'm going to say 25 years ago. Chrétien was the prime minister, and I got invited to a dinner at what's the 10 Downing Street? What's the Canadian equivalent of that, where the prime minister lives? 24 Sussex, thank you. So I schlepped there, and I go, and I think I'm going to have dinner with the prime minister, me and 600 other people, okay? And I look, and it was my daughter's birthday. And I was like, Miles, you are a schmuck. What are you doing? Why are you here with 600 other people? I got back in the car and caught the flight that was turning around, and I went back to be there for my daughter's birthday party. And I would never miss a birthday party again, ever, because that was just dumb. But I thought it was really cool. Like, I should be there. Prime Minister didn't care if I was there or not. Yes. So people say, will you ever retire? You're 67. Would you ever retire? I said, yes, absolutely. And they go, oh, you don't look like the retiring kind. I said, absolutely. 5 years after I pass away, I will retire. So what do I want to do? I got lots I want to do. I don't focus on the businesses. Like the businesses, they have scale, they have great management, they will grow, they will continue to grow. I focus on legacy things. So what do I want to do? One, I told you about Arborough. I want to help 10,000 Canadians buy their first home. Two, I want to create a school of entrepreneurship. I don't think we in Canada talk enough about taking risk, building businesses, etc. And I really want to do one where we have scholarships that help those that can't afford to go to college for entrepreneurship to be able to do that. My friend Ken Langone is a brilliant guy, and he created the Langone School, medical school at NYU. And he said no one will ever pay for tuition. So they raised $1 billion, and no student ever pays for tuition. So that's a dream of mine. I got, those kinds of things. At the end of the day, I'd like to do stuff that I'm doing things to try and deal with anti-Semitism, especially in Toronto. And I hope I'm a bit of a role model for people to give time, talent, and treasure as young professionals, because I was doing it and I was broke. In fact, my CFO, who's now our CEO, said, Miles, you've got to stop making these crazy charitable commitments. We can't afford to pay the first 4, let alone the last 6. I said, don't worry, Hashem will look after us. We'll be fine. He said, I don't know who Hashem is, but I just know one thing. We're going to bounce checks. I don't believe 99.9% of the people will be known for their business accomplishments. Bill Gates will, Elon Musk will, Steve Jobs will, Mark Zuckerberg will. I mean, there's a list, right? But the average mere mortal, whoever they are, no one's ever going to remember anything. Because, it's funny, because do you know there was something called the O'Keefe Center? Do you know there was something called the Hummingbird Theater? You know there's something called the Roy Thompson Hall? And you ask yourself, was there ever any of these guys around? They existed. There was a Ted Rogers. There was a Mr. Rogers from the Rogers Stadium. One day someone's going to say, was there ever a Miles Nadell from the Miles Nadell JCC? So you don't know. But you try to do the right thing in that regard. And at the end of the day, you've got to do things that fill your soul. But I like to still build businesses. I just don't want to work. So I never go to the office anymore. If you want to see me, you just go to one restaurant, and I'm there hanging out, having a coffee, breakfast, lunch, drink. I don't drink. I have iced tea or Diet Coke, but because I like to be around people. You want to ask me a question? It's a brilliant question. There's a difference between a product and technology versus a business services company. Ours aren't all that complicated, right? How do you know right now that the real estate brokerage business is going to come back? because I believe it will, because I believe that we're underserved, that we have way more demand than we have supply, that there will be, there will be a comeback, that the number of transactions in America will get back to 5 or 6 million, up from 4 million. I'm not smart like Mr. Dyson. Mr. Dyson's what I call split the atom smart. But those are unicorns, those kind of people. How they operate, I don't really understand. But sometimes it's just pure being dogmatic and stubborn. Like Elon Musk was not going to stop. He was never going to give up. To me, it's about assessing probabilities of outcome, not possibilities. Okay? And that's about data, and it's about gut instinct. And I don't know how you teach somebody gut instinct. I have lots of arguments with our people. They say, well, this could happen and this could happen. I said, yes, that's true, and the tree could fall when you're walking on Avenue Road in St. Clair, like the tree fell on some person and they died. Okay, that happens. But that's not a high probability. I'm trying to play the laws of probability. But if you've done the work and you understand the probabilities of what it takes to succeed and what does success look like, then you can usually make those decisions. And then you got to keep pivoting and pivoting and pivoting till one of two things happen. You find success or you run out of money. Right? Both of those things are at least a decision point.
Maybe Miles will take this last one question.
Okay. I'm going to take two. The gentleman and the lady.
Ladies first.
That's a brilliant question. Keep doing stuff like this. Be the role model for the next generation of people like you. Try and encourage other aspiring young professionals to join this organization. I think it's amazing. I think these two gentlemen are unbelievable. I think all the people on the board are fantastic. And you will get a ton out of this kind of networking, okay? It may not change the course or trajectory of your professional career. It probably will. You'll meet somebody somehow. I mean, you heard my stories about the fat guy in the Schwitz with me. I was the fat guy in the Schwitz with him. You never know. That was 15 years ago. So you don't really know. Second of all, it's great. And you're supporting Jewish professionals. What these people are doing it's like God's work. It's fantastic. And you're learning about Judaism at the same time. And you're, God willing, going to raise your children to be observant and or to be at least aware of what it means to be a Jew. So try to recruit more people to come here. Try to do things that are good for you in your Yiddishkeit. And I don't know if that's helpful to you, but this is an amazing place. And I met them through Mayor Rabbi Dabrowski. Kept hearing his name everywhere. Who's this Rabbi Dabrowski? And then I see him in Yorkville. It's like unbelievable. I said, like, you could be the mayor if you could afford the pay cut. It's unbelievable. And I just said, okay, like, I want to do more of these things. I want to support, organizations that are involved with promoting networking of young professionals and entrepreneurs. Because when I was there, we didn't have that. When I was your age, we didn't have that. And I think it's fantastic. Does that help you? Okay, last one. It's a brilliant question of which there is no right answer. I have 2 daughters, 2 stepdaughters. My youngest daughter is 33. She is moving to LA. She lives in Vancouver. My eldest daughter is 35. She's talking about making Aliyah to Israel. My 2 stepdaughters are in Toronto. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. You got to figure out what works for you. It's about where's your family, Where are your friends? Where's your heart, your soul? And where are your ambitions and where can they be most fulfilled? Um, I made most of my money in America. I think Canada's an amazing country. If I was 22 years old, okay, fine. By the way, I learned when you're guessing women's age or weight, guess low. You don't want to guess high. But I'm not sure with my ambitions I would be in Canada. Having said that, I just moved back to Canada because I don't think at this stage in my life, I don't think there's a better place for me to be. And it's not perfect. Canada's not perfect. So I do what every good Jew does. I spend most of the winter in Florida, and I spend the summer here, and I try to go to Israel twice a year. I worry about life as a Jewish person in Toronto. I do worry. Now, am I worried? No, for 3,000 years we've been persecuted. Somehow we get through it all, so I'm not worried about that. But it's not the life that I enjoyed when I was your age. I didn't have to think about anti-Semitism. I was aware of it, but it wasn't really that pronounced. I didn't have to worry about my safety and security on college campuses. I didn't have to worry that one day they would burn down the JCC. I think there's a lot of young people, Jewish people, who are questioning and say, where should I be? It's hard to argue against Israel. It's so unbelievable. Whatever's going on in the world, and you go to Tel Aviv, and there's like bombs going on, and they're dancing in the streets. It is the only place in the world that we as Jews are safe, to the extent that we accept each other. It's got to worry about the odd rocket or whatever. But I thought, like I had taken some friends on a trip to Israel, and we went in the north, and we saw the Iron Dome installation. So I got out and I was going to take a picture, and they said, no. Like 2 hours later, like that installation was active, and then the world was fine. I was in 2012. Gilad Shalit got kidnapped. I think it was 2012, and the whole country came to a standstill. It was unbelievable for one lone soldier. It was unbelievable. And I'm involved with the IDF, and I'm involved with Dovdevan, etc. And I always feel like Israelis are starker, they're strong, and omnipotent, omniscient, etc. Then October 7th happens. Shit, maybe we're not quite as good as I thought we were, etc. And then with the walkie-talkies and the pagers and eliminating Syria in 2 weeks and all these things. I know we're okay. Never bet against Israel or Israelis. Never bet against, the Mossad or IDF. Thank God that Hashem's on our side, because they just have this remarkable ability. And, the one thing, I hope this doesn't come across wrong, but one thing that Christian people, they respect is military superiority. And I go to West Point, and I deal with people in the Pentagon, and they say there is no other military in the world like the IDF. There's just nobody. They're not perfect, but I wouldn't change place with anybody. Anyways, I've taken 2 hours and 15 minutes of your time. I was tired before we started, and now I'm only in the second inning. It was a pleasure to spend time with you. Thank you.
You like what you heard? Well, guess what? Click the link, subscribe, join us, connect with us so that we can continue to provide you fresh, awesome content. Thanks for joining.